Welcome to the Family Office, planning for the people who matter most.
Wonders never cease to amaze. Never cease to amaze me with just everything that's going on again today. I think for me the most hilarious thing right now that I like, and I took a picture of this because I know we talked about it last week. But I took a picture of this because I just thought it was so impactful. I didn't text it to you. I saved it for you on purpose for Monday.
Okay.
Because I saved it for you. But just look at that, right? I mean, look at that, right?
Yeah.
You can't read it, but let me read it for you. It's out of a news magazine called TMZ. It says, this is quote, she was at a menopause event. I didn't know this, but Halle Berry's really big into menopause, like menopause awareness for women and all of this stuff. And I could tell you firsthand knowing through that. I watched my mom go through menopause. Oddly enough, I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting for men who have wives who it might be in your mid 40s or older. You will deal with this one day. So be prepared. I highly suggest for men who are married, if you want to stay alive in your marriage.
That's right.
I read this book. I probably want to say I read this book now a year ago. It's called The Psychology of the Female Brain. And it specifically talks about what happens in a woman's brain and her hormones during menopause. But anyways, I don't want to get sidetracked. It's a very big deal. No one talks about it with women. Doctors don't even talk about it with women. And it's a massive thing. And women go through menopause in their mid 40s. So I know two women that are in my life today that I know that are going through menopause today. And it's massively crazy. And as men, husbands, you have to be ready to understand and how to deal with what might not look like your wife anymore for a short amount of time, because absolutely things change significantly. Not talking about that. Halle Berry's highly, involved with that. I guess she's mad because Gavin Newsom has ignored or struck down menopause bills or women's rights bills or something that benefits women several times. And that's why she's so irate. But this is what she said at this recent thing last week. She said, he's not going to be governor forever. And I think he's up for re-election in 2028, right?
His term is done. So
he's done.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's terming out in 2028 elections. Okay. He's not going to be governor forever. And with the way he has overlooked women by devaluing us in midlife, he probably should not be our next president either. That's pretty harsh word. That's some pretty harsh words there. From God bless you, a leading prominent woman who is, I think she's left leaning, right? I mean, I think she is. Most people in Hollywood are.
I would imagine
to hear it from somebody like that,
I don't really know her politics, but yeah.
A woman of color who has a voice, who's respectable, saying those things. But anyways, I thought that was probably one of the most wildest things that I've held on to. Besides the boat strikes, that seems to be a little hot. And I know, TPUSA and things like that. But outside of that, Len, anything exciting going on for you? I know Thanksgiving just passed and we're getting ready for Christmas. Anything exciting going on for you right now?
Well, my son, who I've talked about many times on the podcast, who lives in Brooklyn, is going to be coming out on the 13th. And so he's going to hang out with us until the 7th of January, man. So we're definitely looking forward to that. And I think I've mentioned this before, and I definitely want to go back to the story about Halle Berry and menopause, just because there's so many overlooked health implications. Speaking of two guys on behalf of women, but we're both married to women, so we can definitely talk about that from our perspective. But anyway, my son and I have had a lot of interesting conversations just about business and just about next moves in his life and what he's going to do with them. And so it's always very good to be able to have a conversation. He's 26. To go through the fact that, when I used to walk into the house from long days at work, he'd run up to me and, give me a big hug and say, "Daddy." And then there were a number of years where, he was going through his teenage years, so he was establishing his own independence. And plus he's a younger brother, so he was establishing his independence from him. They ended up going to different high schools, and then he went off to college. And then to have a full circle moment where now from time to time, he reaches out to me to ask me life questions, to ask me business questions. And I definitely realize that the relationship and the seeds you pour into your children at an early age make all the difference. So anytime I get a chance to see him and spend some time with him, it's a really cool thing, man. So definitely looking forward to that. But how about you, before we go back to the topic that you brought up in the beginning? What's going on in your life?
I think there's just so many nuggets that you just dropped there when you talk about that, and seeing that is, and hearing you speak about that is such a it forces me rather to have a lot of forethought, because one day, like, you're going to have those types of conversations with your adult children, and to see you having, and knowing you as long, and knowing your kids as long as I've known them, and to seeing how they've grown up, and to see, what they're doing, and to hear from you what they're doing, and to now see you as a father having adult conversations. It must be so, I don't know what that feels like yet, because I haven't crossed that barrier yet, but that must be so cool to be like, damn, man, I'm having adult conversations with my adult kids right now, and they're making it. And that goes back to the point that you just made of the seeds that you planted and how you did that. You're seeing the fruit of that bear now, and how you were present, and how you're present now, and you're able to enjoy that, and you're able to continue to sow that and to continue to harvest it, and to take care of that harvest that you've got with your kids. It's just so empowering, because your job is not done as a parent. Ever. And you're seeing that right now. And it's not in the things that you think it's going to be. Yep. You just got to, and it's funny that you brought this up, because I was this just recently happened. And I think this is big, and it just happens to be go in hand with this. It's just random. But, my oldest son is right now, he's 14, and he's totally the opposite of me. Super emotional, not, just, I'm in a free spirit, and I'm going to do what I want. How he's very much like his mother. And, immediately, adults, at least for me, it always is, you just want to get in there and like, okay, you want to do this, and you want to do this, and this is how you do this. And you want to do those, you want to give those fatherly like talks and all that stuff. And it's like, damn, dude, it's not being received, because that's not what they need. And sometimes you're forcing it. But then it's the little things that you don't notice. And this is why it's so important. And again, this is all ties in. I'm just sitting here going, man, what a trip, right? How similarly we're thinking. Because I'm like, dang, I notice it. He's getting really into like he's an athlete already, but now he's getting really into the diet, and he's getting really into the fitness and the exercises and the routines. And it's crazy, because I catch him spying on me sometimes, right? And I'm like, oh, he's spying. But he's really into it now. What's interesting is when he wants to talk to me about nutrition and fitness, right? And routines. And I see him doing it now. And I'm like going, if I hadn't made a decision in 2017 to figure my life out and say, I got to be an example for my kids, and get in shape and eat right and exercise and do these things. And that was a long time ago. I mean, 2017, that's like what? Almost 10 years ago now, right? I'm now seeing the fruits of that discipline, because I can't reach my son through the normal traditional of here's business and here's how to do this, here's how to fix things, but I can reach him through that. And we're having a relationship now just through that practice. Because if I was just, if I didn't decide to get that aspect of my life in order, and I was just like, man, it is what it is, and I was overweight, and I wouldn't have anything to connect with him on right now.
Yeah. And really, truth be told, Chris, he may not even have known that, because children are a product of their environment. So had you not made a conscious decision back in 2017 to change your routine and your diet and your habits, it may have not even been something that was important to him, because he wouldn't have seen any examples of it. And, to one thing to your point is he's a teenager. So wait till he becomes an adult and the types of conversations you'll have, because what I found is when I was raising my kids during their teenage years, that was kind of a weird time of adjustment, because, when they're 0 to like 12 or 13, you can be much more authoritative. Like, look, do this, do that, because I said so. Once they start to get into their teens, now you're having conversations with them, and you need to rationalize your reasons why and things like that. You still have authority position, but it's different. And so because they're trying to establish that independence, as I mentioned before. And so They're doing more observing than reaching out. Once they become adults, what I found at least is that they go from, especially when they're independent, those lessons that they kind of saw because they were around it, it has a whole new meaning because now they have to apply it to their own lives. So like, for example, during Thanksgiving, my son reached out to my wife and he was asking her about different dishes. And so, she helped him make the sweet potato pie and, the yams and the greens. And, he was asking about all of those things. And before that was never even on his radar. But now that he has to execute on what he experienced before, it's a different learning style. So, the seeds you pour again into your kids right now, some of them may be more expressive in terms of what they're taking in than others, but you'll see the reflection of that, especially as they get older and on their own.
Yeah, I think it's just such a good point. It's such a good point, and it's such an impactful point because a lot of times people say, oh, I can't reach my son, I can't reach my daughter. And it's not so much that you can't, it's that you have to really, as a parent, look at yourself and go, am I creating new pathways and new understandings and new disciplines in my life so that I can be ahead of my kids, so that I can be prepared to anticipate or to be ready for what they may or may not need. And I think that to me is very profound because it challenges, at least from what I know and what I experienced from a parenting dynamic, because most people it's like, oh, you got to figure it out. And that's fine. I understand that. I had to do that, to a lot of degrees and some degrees, some less than others. Mm-hmm. But I don't choose to parent that way. I choose to be, hey, I'm going to support you. I just don't want to not have a direction to point in or an answer or something if my kid comes asking. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to be emotionally unavailable. I don't want to be monetarily unavailable. I don't want to be business wise. I don't want to be unavailable or ignorant when that happens. Mm-hmm. And I think that most people in general take kids off the table. You just stop exercising those skill sets and those abilities. And you think, oh, it's just because everyone chalks it off to age. Oh, I'm old. I can't move anymore. Your body can move the same way it moves now when you're older, as long as you don't have injuries. I mean, obviously mm-hmm. things aren't going to be as 100%, but you can maintain 80% of your faculties. There are people, they run marathons till the day they die, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that I think is where you look at your self-development internally as a person and go, dude, am I getting better as a father? Am I getting better as a wife? Am I getting better as a husband? Whatever, insert X, right? Am I getting mm-hmm. better to be, because your kids are growing up in an era today where the world is drastically different from when you and I grew up. And I think we lose touch of that, mm-hmm. right? We lose mm-hmm. touch of what the world, just getting out of bed and walking to school or going to school is in general, it's the same, but it's different, man. It is totally different culturally, economically. Everything is different. Now, cell phones didn't exist when you and I walked to school. Think about the pressures of that mm-hmm. on a child, right? Likes and dislikes and all of the attention and all the exposure that you get. So you have to adapt. Otherwise, you won't be able to support the children. And I think that's why there's a lot of disconnect today.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I agree. And I think as our kids get older and as we get older, we also have to understand that we're going to go through changes and we need to be there as much for our kids as possible for as long as possible, and so going back to this story about getting older and Halle Berry and menopause and all of those things, I didn't realize how dramatic of an impact menopause has on women. I was doing some research about it. And one of the things that I realized is that there's like this whole cascading effect just based on hormonal changes. So when you go on menopause, then they lose estrogen. And because they lose estrogen, that creates an increased risk for cardiovascular disease and strokes and all of those things. And so and then also when you start to lose estrogen as a female, you're more prone to metabolic crashes. And then when you have metabolic crashes, then what does that lead to? Weight gain. And so what happened is there was a bill that was introduced by Assembly Bill 482, introduced by a person named Bauer Kahar. I might be pronouncing her name incorrectly, but she brought up this bill that talked about Menopause Care Equity Act. And so what she said is, look, as a country, we don't have enough information about how women age. And so this act was suggest that, one, that doctors need to get more training on how menopause impacts the body. And then two, that menopause is, under the Affordable Care Act is also insured. So anybody who has menopause, who is going through menopause, should be covered by insurance. And so Gavin Newsom vetoed that. And one of the reasons why he said it is he said, look, there may be some unintended consequences and extra charges for the Affordable Care Act. And so that's the reason why he turned it down. So, I don't blame Halle Berry for being upset, because the way I look at it is there should be more studies that really reveal the impact of that, and more people should be aware, because there are a lot of women who end up having massive mood changes and body changes, and having a wife that has experienced that and who's experiencing that, sometimes it's freezing cold in the house and she's nice and warm, and I'm just, my teeth are chattering and all of those things. We like different things, especially sleeping. She likes to sleep cold and I like to sleep warm. But, as a husband who wants to keep his wife happy, I've got to make the adjustments because I'm not feeling what she feels. And so I remember one time I gave her a hug and all of a sudden, her skin starts to get clammy, and I'd never experienced that with her before. And so it was a very weird thing for me to feel physiologically, because before that, I just thought that what they were experiencing was more, not physical, but more mental. I didn't know that there was an actual physical manifestation of their hotness. And then the other thing, and I'll turn it over to you. We were at church, and I remember, growing up in churches, I went to traditionally predominantly African American churches. So if you go into any black church, black folks will definitely know what I'm talking about. Every female in there has got this fan and she's fanning herself off. I just thought that was something that they just did just because. Now I understand why, because most of the women in church happen to be older and obviously they're impacted by menopause. But I just thought that was like a black ladies church thing, but not knowing now I get it.
It's so true. And here's the thing that I can't help but think that this is what creates so much tension today. And you're absolutely right about the hot flashes and all of those things. And it manifests, for some women, it manifests massively in the physical side. For some women, it manifests massively on the mental side of it. For some, it goes on both. For some, it's mild. It's different. Mm-hmm. But we talk about mental health crises in America a lot, right? We talk about that's the really big issue in America today is the mental health crisis. It's just huge, and it goes across young kids all the way to older kids, right? Even adults. But this is what's got to chafe you. This is what I can't help but end my day and go, this has got to be another reason why people. And it's not just one thing. This is just. Throw this in the basket with a bunch of other things that's just irritating the crap out of people. Because not only is shit so freaking expensive, and in life just again, reading it, the baby boomers, there's fresh Wall Street Journal and The Guardian, both today, fresh stuff all about the resentment towards that generation again. Right. And I know it just never stops, Len. And I didn't even want to bring it up, but it just never stops. It doesn't stop. It just doesn't stop. But here's the thing that just has got to chafe people. And again, that's just one of them. Add it on to everything. is the fact that you can have a prominent governor like Newsom in a prominent state that has the world's fifth largest economy, because we love to tout that when the talking point suits a good light for us, which it ought to. That's a big accomplishment to know that, hey, a state inside the United States, which is a country, has an economy that's bigger than the majority of countries in the world. That's got to be. But again, when it suits us. So to me, how we can't afford to spend stuff to fix the mental health crisis, which is women suffering by not having enough education and enough therapeutics behind menopause, which is massive. All the women in America have to deal with it. We can't even get behind that cause, but we're going to send 20, 30, 40, 60, 70, 80 million, $100 million overseas to countries so they can understand gender reaffirming studies. I can't. And then at the same time, your gas is more expensive, your food's more expensive, your rent's more expensive, and crime sucks. And you don't feel safe. That's just got to chafe people. And that's the part where I'm like, yeah, no wonder Halle Berry said it. Halle Berry said everything that other women wanted to say, but they can't say it because they're too afraid to say it. And they can't say it because they don't have a platform to say it. And she said it for everybody. So now I hope that Halle Berry can then champion that moving forward and really put her money and her action and her prestige and her power where her mouth is and actually champion that cause, because I think she could get a lot of guys. She'd get my vote for something. She'd get a lot of guys behind her that would go, yeah, you know what, Halle Berry, you know what, I'm with you on this. Because I'm a husband that has a wife that's going through menopause. And I'm talking to my really good friend who we do business together and we do a podcast together, who has a wife who's gone through it and is probably coming out of it now, knowing the age where you guys are at. Yeah, Halle Berry, I'm behind you. Can you do what most celebrities don't do and actually really get behind that cause and actually be pragmatic and put that to use? That would be refreshing. That would be refreshing. Look at that. And I don't care about her politics. Don't get into it politically. And she kept it clean. Mm-hmm. Just don't get weird with it and take a stand. Just get behind it. And that's what we need. That's what we need. We really need more of that, because that's unifying for me. I can get behind a cause like that. I can't get behind a cause sending $80 million to Ukraine anymore.
I agree.
And that's another subject. I don't want to get on that. Zelensky's in London now going, who else can feed me now? Dude, the money train is over, bro. Stop the war. These guys could have stopped that war. They could. It's not Trump's fault that war's not over. It's Zelensky's fault that war's not over.
It's not. That's
Putin's fault.
It's Putin's
NATO's fault.
Yes,
but
I think they all have a role. I agree. They all have a role to play in there. No, I think.
Len, if this was a real war, Ukraine would be smashed, dead, and obliterated by now. You're telling me Russia can't obliterate that country right now? You're telling me they can't go in there?
But they don't have any vested interest in obliterating it, because they want it for their own, to re-annex it. And so if they go and blow up all of the national treasures and all of those things, then it's done. But coming back to the domestic front, as it relates to just getting behind the cause.
Thank you for recentering us. Good reset.
It's all good.
Len's like, I got to pull Chris back in here because he's going to get rancid again.
Hey, man, we can, us, man, we could go for hours on this stuff and talk internationally. But I agree with you from the standpoint of getting behind a cause that you believe in, regardless of what it is. Like I look at Halle's message as a platform or a way to apply a concept to say, look, if I am famous and I have influence and there's something that I deeply believe in, I need to sink my teeth in and take that belief and transform it into action. Because if you have one person that champions a cause who has influence, they can influence other people to go and be your mouthpiece and your eyes and your ears to go influence other people. And then as they talk to other people, then it raises awareness. And then as the awareness rises, then what begins to happen is the voice of reason starts to get louder and louder, because you can be very rational in what you say, but if you're the only one saying it, nobody's listening to you. But you can't ignore 10,000 versus 100,000 versus 1,000,000 people who are saying the same thing. And to me, I think this really is also a reflection on what our democracy really should be. It's a series of ideas that get awareness, that turn into law, that becomes a part of legislation, that gets passed because it's the will of the people. And so, as more women and as more husbands or sons that love their mom champion this cause, I think there's, a real reason to go ahead and push this legislative agenda forward. And so I'm definitely for it, man. I think that, especially when you're talking about, the old saying, happy wife, happy life, that there's some truth to that, man, in a big way. And if we disregard what our wives are going through because we just simply don't know, or were never taught, or we don't care because it's not on our radar, then that just creates opportunities for more conflict, man. So I'm totally with that. So with that being said, Chris, awesome show. Thank you for having this conversation with me. And until next time, man, it's been nice.
Len, yes, absolutely. Have a great week and have a great dinner or whatever it is that you're doing tonight.
Thank you, brother.
Take care.
All right.
Conversation has given you clarity on your next steps. Please share this episode with someone who's walking the same path. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss future episodes. And remember, planning ahead isn't just prudent, it's an act of care. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Family Office.